Hey, Terry Kelly. We're talking to Terry Kelly again. Hey, man.
That cool. It's cool to be here.
Oh,
And
uh, ab- absolutely. Absolutely. Only this time, we're going to have a great conversation, not about your music career, but a lot of people may not know this. And I wasn't aware until a few months ago that Terry
right.
Kelly honors our troops.
Yeah. I'm very fortunate to have been able to do that, Jack. Uh, and I was also honorary colonel at 14 Wing Greenwood for 5 years. I just finished that round of that chapter in my life, which was extremely wonderful. And that happened as a result of being in Afghanistan. So I spent a couple of weeks over in Afghanistan as well, back about 15 years ago.
Wow. What was that like for you, Terry?
Well, it was an eye opener, even for a blind guy, Jack.
Wow.
It was, it was quite nice. I was very fortunate to be there and to get a feeling for the intense atmosphere. And I went over with the NHL players, and I went over with General Rick Hillier, and he had taken a number of veteran hockey players with him, and so that in itself was quite an honor and quite an experience. And then when we got there, we were dropping in for a visit, but all those young men and women were there with their lives on the line every day when they went outside the wire. When I say outside the wire, when they went off the base. But even when you weren't off the base, there were ordnance coming in, missiles and that kind of thing, because they're constantly being attacked. And we had to make some quick runs for the kind of the bomb shelters a few times while I was there. And then so one of the service men, at the time I think he was lieutenant colonel. When he came back from Afghanistan, he became commander at Greenwood, and he was the person who invited me to come to Greenwood and be honorary colonel. So if I hadn't gone to Afghanistan, I probably wouldn't have ended up as honorary colonel down at Greenwood. And when I was a kid, I think I told you one time before, Jack, I wanted to fly airplanes, and more specifically, I wanted to fly them in the Air Force. But someone thought it wouldn't be a very good idea for a blind guy to be flying, the big technical Air Force aircraft, let alone any airplane. So I was very fortunate. I got into the Air Force. I like to say I got into the back door. So it was quite an experience.
Wow, indeed it was. And indeed it was. But in the same way, you still got to learn about what the troops, how they sacrificed their lives and put their lives on the line to make this country a better place to live in.
Yeah. Well, not only did they make it, not only have troops and servicemen and women made it better for this country, but in the case of Afghanistan, they were over there attempting to make it better for the people who live there.
Wow.
So they were actually sacrificing their lives for the lives of strangers.
Oh yeah.
And so I always like to say that they made it safer for kids to go to school, for parents to be able to, and women to do things that they'd never done before, and for families to live like families. Mm-hmm. And of course, when the servicemen and women go away, they are doing heroic things. Right. But the families they leave behind, like their husbands and wives and daughters and sons and moms and dads, they are heroes as well, because when their boys and girls and moms and dads and friends go away to serve, they're left at home not knowing anything. They don't know if people are being attacked, if they're, what's happening. They sometimes don't hear a word until someone dies or someone gets injured, and so the people left at home are heroes as well.
Oh, absolutely,
it's important to
absolutely.
remember. Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And when you were honorary colonel for 5 years, did you get to attend a lot of these important meetings? Like, did you get to experience that?
Oh yeah, so I had to, I met with on the Greenwood 14 wing base, we'll call it. They call it 14 wing, but
Okay.
it's a base of sorts.
Okay.
So I was honorary colonel of the whole base,
Wow.
and then each squadron had an honorary colonel,
Okay.
along with the commander for each squadron. So there was a commander for the whole base, and so I was kind of his wingman, as it were. And then there was an honorary colonel for every squadron, like the people who did tactical work, people who fixed aircraft, people who flew the aircraft, people who taught students. They all had lieutenant colonels. So in addition to the colonel for the wing or the base, there were colonels for each squadron as well.
Wow.
So I got to interact and work with all of them. And once a year, we'd go away, and all the Air Force people from across the country, all the honorary colonels would get together, and we'd meet and talk and meet the Air Force general. So, I got to visit a lot of bases across the country, went up north, and got on aircraft, flew on the helicopters and different aircraft, different size aircraft, different size helicopters. And so got to see the nuts and bolts of the Air Force, as it were. Right.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I'm glad you got to experience that. I mean, well, it's always been a dream come true for you. Besides becoming a musician, but also getting to, although it would never be possible for you to fly an aircraft, but still, you got to do things around that area that made you happy.
Exactly. Now, Jack, I did fly an airplane one time.
You did you?
So I did.
All right.
So a lot of people, I don't know if you're old enough to remember Peter Zosky. He used to be a host on CBC Radio.
Oh, I've heard. Oh, yeah, Peter.
It was a national morning show.
Okay.
So one day he called me up, and he was doing a feature on asking people about dreams. And so he called me up and he asked me if I ever had any interesting dreams. So I told him about a couple of my dreams, and I said, but there's one really particular one that had Peter, I said, I've always had this dream to fly an airplane. I've always wanted to fly. I wanted to be in the Air Force, and I would dream about being at the controls and all that stuff. And I said, but I never got to fly.
Wow. So
I was touring the country that year with my band.
Okay.
And I got to a place called Dauphin, Manitoba, mm-hmm. and it was a big outdoor festival. Mm-hmm. And when we arrived, the person who organized the festival came up to me and said, Terry. I said, yes. I think his name is John. I said, yes, John. He said, got a surprise for you. I said, what's that? He said, I've got a flight instructor who's going to take you up and give you a flying lesson.
Wow.
And he said, however, he said, that's not until after the show.
Okay.
You know what he meant by that? What he meant by that, Jack, was in case I crashed the aircraft, he wanted me to do the show first, right?
Do the show first. And you did.
So anyway, so after the show, this wonderful lady, I met this lady, and she, her name was Irene. And she took me up in this airplane, and she got me to sit in the left-hand seat. When you sit in the left-hand seat, that's the pilot seat.
Okay.
So she was at the controls. She talked me through a bunch of stuff. I'd been in aircraft before, so I knew a little bit about them, and I read a lot about them. So, but I'm sitting there. So she said, we're going to take off, and I'm going to talk you through a landing, and I'm going to talk you through another takeoff, and then we'll land again. So she said, put your hands on the oak. That's like this, the stick or the steering wheel. Put your hands on the oak. And she took off, and then she got me to do some maneuvers up there. And then she said, my hands are off my controls. I'll put them back on if I need to. But she said, pay close attention, and we'll land this thing. So I landed the aircraft, no problem. And then we did what they call a touch and go. So we touched down and took off again, turned around and took off again. And she talked me through that. That was a totally different experience. And then we flew around a little bit up top. And then we landed. Now, when I was up in the air, there was a magazine reporter wanted to come up in the aircraft with me to see, what happened. And when she got up there, she didn't realize I was going to fly. She's sitting in the back of the aircraft. And she said to the pilot, she said to the instructor, she said, is there a washroom up here? So I scared the living out of her. Right? So the instructor said, sorry, ma'am, no washroom up here, so you'll have to hold it. So I scared not the living daylights out of her, but you know what the other thing was.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I know.
So anyway, so we landed. So that was the closest I've ever come to really, well, I did fly it, but she was a really good teacher, good instructor. And she was very calm, and she talked me through that takeoff and landing. So it was a wonderful experience. And so how that happened was that the man who ran the festival heard my interview with Peter Zosky. And so he wanted to surprise me. So when I arrived to do the concert, he decided that he would hire this flight instructor to take me up. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. That is pretty cool. Very interesting too. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now,
so go ahead. Sorry.
Now, I have an uncle that served in the Black Watch. He's 81 years old, and every year I thank him for his service to our country.
Well, is he still living?
He's still living. Well, he's 81. And here's the thing: he got married a few weeks ago.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's a lesson to us all. He's 81 years old.
Yep.
And he served in the Black Watch.
Yep.
And he just got married again.
Yeah, he got married again. Yeah.
I want to meet this guy. When I come to the Cape, I want to meet him.
You never know. Yeah.
Can you set it up if I come? When I come?
I probably could. Yeah. I mean,
all right. Good. Yeah. I want to meet this man.
Oh yeah.
So he's still in pretty good health, is he?
Oh yeah. He's in good health.
Yeah. So, of all this airplane talk and so on, as we talked about just now, I was in the Air Force for 5 years.
Oh yeah.
So I played a lot of concerts down there with the 14-wing band, and so the conductor, of the band, a warrant officer Jeff Campbell, bandmaster. He and I wrote a song for the Air Force called "No Sky Too High," and so I wanted to write a song about the Air Force that talked about the history of flight. Let me get that phone. Hang on. The history of flight, and someone got that. And so it starts off when way back with the Greek mythology and stories of the Greek, there was a little boy who wanted to fly, and his name was Icarus. So he wanted to fly, and ever since the beginning of time, people fantasized about flying like a bird.